Welcome to the Performance Enhancing Podcast. It's like steroids for your brain. A podcast for people looking to live life at their peak potential. Chock full of real-world tools and knowledge that you can apply in your life today. By providing you with a lens into the lives, beliefs, practices, and actions of those who are already living extraordinary lives, the Performance Enhancing Podcast will help you shift your mindset or create that change in your daily rituals and habits so you can explode with success in the areas of life that are most important to you. So get ready for another dose of Performance Enhancing Podcast with SatoriPrime. Here's your host, Ilan Ferdman.
Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another Pep Talk with your host, Ilan Ferdman. We're about to dive into part 2 of my interview with Jason Hartman. So like I said before, this is the first time I've ever had a real estate investor on the show. It was really, really eye-opening. And in this second part, we're going to continue the conversation where we kind of left off about managing properties from afar, which I thought was a complete farce up until talking to Jason. And we're also going to delve into some things that were conversations that I've recently had with people. For example, should you rent or should you own your home? Which I think his answer will surprise you. And then we actually talk a little bit more about his company and how they can help you in achieving the goals that you want. So without further ado, part 2 of my interview with Jason Hartman. Enjoy. Interesting. I know that even when we were investing in properties, if the person wasn't boots on the ground, it was a big red flag. Granted, we were looking at, larger pieces of commercial real estate, right. But still, I remember that being like a huge red flag.
Right. And I want you to understand that our people are the boots on the ground. Okay. And, I'll give you an example about this that's kind of crazy. Okay. So I used to live in Newport Beach, California, and also Irvine, California. Okay. That's Southern California, Orange County. And I had, several investment properties in that area over the years. My first one was in Huntington Beach, California, when I was 20. And I remember one property that I owned in Irvine. I had a tenant there. He stayed for about 3.5 years. And he said he's moving. And so after he moved out, I went over to take a look at the property. I didn't have a manager. I always manage these properties myself. And I realized when I went there, I thought, I haven't been here for 3.5 years. Why would it make any difference if this property is 3 miles from my house or 3,000 miles from my house? It really wouldn't make a difference. I wasn't there. I never went to that house for 3.5 years. Okay. And, that happens all the time. I mean, I remember one of my properties a long time ago, the tenant was there for 9 years, and I never went to that place either. Okay, so, it's not really what people think it is. If you're going to your properties and you're like saying hello to the tenant, you're destined to be a small player because you can't scale that. Okay, so stop going over to visit your tenants anyway. What do you
I brought you a bag of cookies.
Yeah, really.
Okay, let me ask you this. So now the markets, what I'm kind of seeing is happening is everyone's getting into the flip game.
Yep.
It's almost to the point where it's laughable at who's getting into this flip game. Real estate's becoming...
That may be the sign of a bubble, by the way. Yeah.
Exactly. That's what I'm saying. So this was exactly my question. When I see these kind of cues start coming down... Right. And the taxi drivers are becoming house flippers.
Yeah, the shoe shine boy giving Rockefeller stock.
Yeah. I'm like, it's time to get out. So you're in it more than I am. What are you seeing as kind of the trend for the next year or two? Mm-hmm. You alluded to a bubble. And then how are you positioning yourself to not, I guess, be affected by, I think, what is imminently coming?
Right. Well, if there is another shoe to drop, which there may well be, I don't really believe we ever had a recovery. I think this recovery is largely smoke and mirrors.
Yeah.
It's propped up by printing fake money, fiat money out of thin air, and
rates.
Yeah, at negative interest rates.
Yeah.
I mean, it's insane what's going on. But that's great for real estate investors. Heck, accumulate as much of that incredibly low fixed rate 30-year debt as you can. That is a huge asset to you. And I'll be glad if we have time, I'll be glad to talk about that inflation-induced debt destruction.
Yes, please.
It dovetails in with that concept. But, in terms of my positioning, honestly, I don't think too much about this. I don't worry about a big crash because my properties are boring, okay? They're not, this is not, the flip game is the game of speculation. It's the game of the greater fool theory. It's the game of, no matter what I pay, I can sell it to someone else for more, some greater fool. And that's just not what we do. I mean, I've certainly done enough of that in my career, but I'm just getting too conservative for that kind of stuff. I just want to buy properties that produce yield. All I want is yield. And compare it to, the criminal Bernie Madoff, right? By the way, I watched a great documentary recently called Chasing Madoff. I think it's on Netflix or Amazon Prime or something. It's really, you'll like it. It's good.
Chasing Madoff. Okay.
Yeah, get the director on your show. I want to get him on mine if I can.
You got it.
Yeah. Anyway, Bernie Madoff said he got his idea for the Ponzi scheme from the United States Social Security system. Isn't that interesting? And
it's so scary and sad at the same time.
It's so sad and true at the same time. But these properties are just, they're just very basic cash flow properties. Oh, and here was the reason I mentioned Madoff again, because Madoff's big promise to investors was that he could consistently earn a 9 to 12% yield. And he was considered, before everybody knew he was a criminal, he was considered like a genius, right? Yeah. He was president of NASDAQ, okay? I mean, he was revered in like the highest levels of personal finance culture, or institutional finance too. And so you don't have to get that much of a yield. If you just literally, if you can get 10, 12, 15% annually, you're doing great. I mean, how much do you need?
Yeah.
You don't need to get 6,000% annually, okay? Which it's great when it happens, but just investing for yield is a very reliable program. And like our investor Jeff that I talked about, he got over 22% in the last year. So I'm just a yield investor, a cash flow oriented investor.
So talk about now this inflation-induced.
Yes, it's a mouthful for sure.
Yeah.
So listeners, say it 10 times fast. Inflation-induced debt destruction. Okay, that Jason Hartman guy's got me, my tongue tangled. So basically the idea is this, and look, as I'm saying this, I completely understand and actually agree that inflation is very tame right now, okay? But in the next 30 years, we will have bouts of inflation, I am sure, especially with the amount of debt we have as a country right now, right? And so I give you a real life example just to show that this is not some esoteric theory. And I've given this example so many times, I think I can actually do it from memory without looking at the chart. But if you want, I will be happy to send you the PowerPoint slides.
Sure.
You can post these, give them to your listeners, whatever you like. Okay?
That'd be awesome.
And basically, because it's a big chart, it's a whole spreadsheet with a bunch of numbers on it. But basically, here's the example. If you bought the median price single-family home in 1972, you would have paid just about $18,000. And in July of 1972, you would have received a mortgage at 7.37%. Okay? And if you put 20% down, that would have left you with a loan balance of $14,000 and change. Okay, I'm just rounding off here.
Yeah.
Simplicity. Now, in 1972, a dollar was worth $1. Nothing had happened yet. But over the course of the next 3 decades, we had an average inflation rate of 5.1% annually. Now, of course, all your listeners are sophisticated and they know that the government always understates inflation. They have very good reasons to do that.
Yeah.
So, if the government tells you inflation is 2%, it's probably really about 3.5%. Okay? And so understand that. But this is just the official statistic of 5.1% average over the course of that 30 years up until 2001, when you made the last payment on that mortgage. So here's what happened. The mortgage payment on this house was $101 per month or $1,211 per year. Now, just go from 1972, and let's just fast forward only 12 years, because it's a year everybody can remember, because a famous man named George Orwell wrote a book about it in 1984. Okay? So let's fast forward from 1972 to 1984. And just in that 12 short years, here's what happened to that 1972 dollar. It was now only worth 40 cents. So while we thought we were making payments on this house of $101 per month, by 1984, the real dollar value, okay, and see, here's the difference. We have to understand the difference between nominal, meaning in name only, and real, meaning the real value of something, okay? And so the nominal value of the dollar, it's still called a dollar. We still call it a dollar today. It's worth much less than it used to be. So the nominal value of the dollar is still a dollar. The real value is only 40 cents 12 years later. So as you're paying that mortgage every month, that payment feels much lighter to you because the value of the dollar has declined. So by the end of this term, by 2001, 30 years, where this person, well, really tens of millions of people did this. This actually happened. It's not a theory, okay? Well, the tens of millions of people that did this and became rich through the hidden wealth creator of inflation-induced debt destruction, they paid the last $101 payment in 2001, yet the real value of that payment was only $24. Okay? Now, this house, remember in 1972, okay, that they paid off in 2001, they purchased it for $18,000, and the nominal dollars that they paid back over the course of that mortgage, remember the mortgage amount was about $14,000, was $36,000.
Yeah.
So they thought they paid a lot of interest, right? They thought, oh, isn't this a scam? The bank is charging me so much. But actually, after inflation, and inflation over that time was pretty tame, okay? It was not significant. It was not the Weimar Republic. It was not Zimbabwe. It was not Hungary. It was not, a million other examples around the world.
Yeah.
Or even bad inflation we've had in the US, right? It's only 5.1, no big deal. They thought they were paying 7.37%. But after inflation, the real interest rate they paid was just over 1%.
Wow.
By the time inflation-induced debt destruction occurred. And remember, this example is with a homeowner. This is not a rental property. So they were living in it, and they were paying their own debt. They were not outsourcing the debt to somebody called a tenant. See, I love debt because I don't pay my debt. My tenants pay my debt, okay? I mean, everything I buy that I just use in my life, I pay cash for. Like I bought a new Tesla. I wrote them a check for 110 grand, okay? But every piece of real estate, if I can finance it, man, I'm going to leverage it as much as I can. Because I'm going to
especially nowadays.
Oh, yeah, 3-decade-long, super cheap fixed rate debt, right? It's phenomenal. So now, after, we talked about after inflation, but after tax benefits, listen, this is going to blow your mind. After inflation-induced debt destruction and tax benefits, this person and the tens of millions of other people that did the same exact thing actually got paid to borrow that money. Their interest rate was negative in real terms by 1.16%.
Because they're also getting tax benefits on top.
Yeah, every year they got to live in the house for free, plus they got 1.16% paid to them. Unbelievable.
So that brings up a very good question, and this is what I was saying to you. We were actually talking about around the dinner table the other day. For your personal,
well, you were talking to someone else, not me, right?
No, not you. Yeah. For with my family, and we were having this discussion about renting versus owning personal property.
Right.
You live in.
Yeah.
So you have obviously had a lot more experience. I'm curious, what's your take? Rent your own house or buy a house?
Depends how much the house is going to be worth.
Okay.
That's how I answer that question. So let me give you a couple examples on this. So I used to live in Orange County. I owned a lot of fabulous homes. I had 3 beautiful homes in Newport Coast, California, one of the most expensive zip codes in the country. And, I used to believe that. I used to think that, you should always own your house, of course. I mean, I was never a renter until I was like 30 something.
Yeah.
And then I became a renter for a short time. And then I owned again. I was actually building another house. And then I owned again and owned and owned. And I'm actually a renter now. Although I own lots of rental properties, I rent my own house. And I wouldn't have it any other way. The place I live in now, I pay $4,200 a month for. And if it were for sale, this place, it's brand new, it's about 1,800 square feet, it'd probably go for, given the location here in Scottsdale, Arizona, it'd probably go for, I don't know, about $1 million, $1.2 million, maybe.
Yep.
So look at my rent to value ratio. I'm renting at like a 0.3 or something like that, or maybe a 0.4 rent to value ratio. But if I'm going to invest $1 million or $1.2 million, I want to get 1% per month. So I'm going to insist on getting $10,000 to $12,000 a month. So if you're going to rent a higher end property, you can arbitrage the rent. Remember that example I gave you about New York City, about Manhattan?
Yep.
The $3 million condo that rents for only $11,000 a month. That's a bargain for the renter. Okay, yeah. It's a bargain, because if you're a smart investor, you can get 1% per month. Okay, so the cutoff is usually about $250,000 in value. Just so you know.
Say that again. The cutoff is
okay. So if the listener is going to live in a house that's over $250,000 in value, they are almost always going to be better off renting it.
Yeah.
And this applies. This house could be in Paris, it could be in London, it could be in Marrakesh, Morocco, it could be in San Diego or New York City. It does not matter. This is a global rule. I've traveled now to 79 countries, and it's this way all around the world. Okay.
I mean, almost word for word what I was trying to say. I own my house.
Yeah.
And there's two reasons, I think, one of which you touched on. I just think for the 20% down payment, which is pretty much standard across the board today,
right?
House, even in a $500,000 house, that's $100,000 coming out of your pocket.
Right.
$100,000, like you said, could buy you potentially 5 other properties that are actually producing you.
Yeah, that's a great way to look at it. So here's that math. I love that you said this. Okay. Here's the way that math would look. Let's just be more conservative. Let's say it's just 4 properties. Okay.
Sure.
So the $100,000 in cash buys you 4 properties. And here's how those would typically look. Like if your listeners go to jasonhartman.com and they click on the properties tab, they will see the complete pro formas that outline all of this. Okay. So you could buy 4 properties. Okay. Now you got to qualify for the loans and all that good stuff, right? Buy 4 properties. And if those properties produce $200 per month cash flow each, okay, you're going to have positive cash flow of $800 per month, okay, and you're going to be diversified because you'll do that in hopefully 2 different markets, 2 properties in Memphis and 2 in somewhere else, for example, or it doesn't have to be Memphis. We got a whole bunch of places to invest. That's just an example. And so you'll have $800 a month in positive cash flow, give or take, and then you'll have tax benefits if you qualify for all of them, okay? And you'll have leverage because you'll now control $400,000 worth of real estate, okay? But you only have 1/4 or 1/5 of the money into. So you've got a 4-to-1 or 5-to-1 leverage ratio, right?
Yeah.
So you're earning money off of someone else's money. I mean, certainly you understand leverage.
Yeah.
And most of your listeners do too. So that's a very powerful thing. And I think that's a great plan. And then we have to take the other side of the equation. And the other side of the equation is look at what you're living in, right? You're paying $4,000 a month, and you're living in a place that's worth $1.2 million. Where if you had that whole $1.2 million, you could just deploy that and make $12,000 a month. So it really, it's a two-sided thing. Plus flexibility. I mean, it's just the whole owning your own home thing. Look, I fell for that for like 2 decades. And
good marketing.
It's overrated. Yeah.
I mean, listen,
and I'm a real estate guy. I can't believe I'm saying this. It's like, this is Travis. You never say this if you're in real estate.
The funny part is, I think that there's just a shift happening where people are like, whoa, I really bought that hook, line, and sinker, but it really does not make sense. And I think to your point with flexibility, the ability to move and work from anywhere in the world today,
totally.
The fact that you're locking yourself into this one locale, like for me right now, I want to move my family to California. But the thought of doing what I have, say it again?
Taxes are outrageous.
I know.
It's a ripoff.
San Diego.
I love California. I love California for that reason. But okay, But at least if you go and rent something,
That's what I'm saying.
You'll understand really where you want to live. Okay, first of all, but you'll have the flexibility. Say you move there and you don't like it. Say you want to move to Scottsdale. Okay,
Yeah.
you can do that. I mean, it's just, this is all part of, I think, the sharing economy, Airbnb,
Yes.
Uber mentality. Okay, look at, we don't really ever own anything. Look, all of us came into the world with nothing. We're going to leave with nothing. Okay,
True.
all we get to do is manage things in between while we're alive. And when we're just using a place. Okay, when you go to another city on a trip, do you buy a house so you can sleep there for 2 nights? Of course not. What's the difference if you sleep there for 2 nights or 2 years?
Yeah.
It's a utility item. Okay, and the mindset is definitely changing on this.
Totally.
I just want to say I'm in favor of it.
Yeah. And that's why this was such a cool thing, because like you said, I can't believe I'm saying this because I'm the real estate investor guy. And that's just the state of the world right now. Maybe back in the day, it made more sense, I think, because rent to value
ratios. Yeah, no, they weren't much better. It was always true. Like, I remember in Orange County in the 90s, okay, and expensive markets like Irvine and Newport Beach, right? They were still the same. The rent to value ratios didn't change much. Of course, they got better as the market slumped, and that's only because prices came down. And maybe rents softened a tad, but rents move much more slowly than prices.
Yeah.
And so, by and large, a cyclical market is a cyclical market. Okay. And the best thing, like, say for example, you have to get a job, right? And say someone is listening is not an entrepreneur. They're just a corporate person, right? And I don't mean to say just, there are lots of brilliant corporate people, okay, but you get the idea, right? So if you're a corporate person, the best thing you can have on a resume, mobility, the ability to move to where the opportunity is. Your house, if you own it, is going to keep you stagnant. And you look at markets like California, where all the smart middle class people are like leaving because the taxes are so high, right? And so a lot of the jobs, the companies leave too, right? And so jobs go with them, and the people that own, it's much harder for them to move and adjust. Yeah.
Well, I want to be conscious of time here, and I have a final question, which I usually ask, but I'm going to ask it a little bit differently today.
Go for it.
So if you could, do you have any kids?
Nope.
Okay.
I need to find a wife first. But
yeah, that's when I was 23. I was like, Mom, do you think I can just find a girl to just have a baby with me so I can have a kid?
No, I don't think that'd be a good idea. It'd be a lot of work.
Terrible idea. Yeah. That's a question that a 23-year-old asks. Yeah. If you could leave someone, no money, no portfolio, no nothing, but some sort of thought process or an idea to follow that that idea would blossom into them creating their own wealth, what would that be?
Oh gosh, it's so hard to distill that into such a, like a soundbite. But, I guess I'd have to say I was very fortunate at age 17 to discover Earl Nightingale, Dennis Waitley, Jim Rohn, and Zig Ziglar. Those guys massively changed my life. I would not be where I am without them. And I know that's true for many millions of people around the world, for sure. Probably you too. You're nodding your head. I'm sure they influenced you. They were great. And I actually had Dennis Waitley on my show. He's the only one of them alive still. And then, of course, there's Tony Robbins, and he's great too. But, I guess, first of all, be self-reliant and understand that you are the author of your own life. Right. And nobody's going to do it for you, and it's nobody's fault. You are where you are as a result of your thoughts, and if you want to be somewhere else, you got to change your thinking. So I'd say that would be the first concept. Be self-reliant and control your thoughts, and therefore control your world. And then the second concept would be just be forever curious. Always be learning. You just gotta, and I guess maybe that was just a lucky thing, maybe it's genetic, I don't know. But I've just always been a super curious person. And I always am looking to learn more stuff. And it's kind of an OCD behavior. It's, at least for me. I have OCD.
I love it. I love it because
I learn something and wash my hands. you know,
I got to tap 3 times every time I learn something.
Exactly. No, wash your brain out.
Yeah. No, we're obviously probably surround ourselves with really, really high level people who push ourselves to think bigger and better. And that's just something that I see in all of them. The amount of books that the successful people that I surround myself with read, podcasts they listen to, seminars they go to. I asked a question the other day of someone. I said, how much do you invest in yourself? Just in yourself, not in an investment, in yourself, whether it's books, seminars, courses, coaching, whatever, every single year. And I will tell you how successful you're going to be.
Yeah, that's a great metric. And you know what? There's actually one more, and you just alluded to it. So we should share this. And I know you're going to agree on this because Jim Rohn said it so well. He said, your income will be the average of the 5 people you spend most of your time with. And so you've got to surround yourself with the right people. And that's why I think mastermind groups are a phenomenal thing.
100%.
Napoleon Hill, of course, he promulgated that idea way back in the 30s. And you gotta like choose your friends. It's so much more interesting to be hanging out and talking with people who are going somewhere and doing something. I mean, it's just more interesting.
For sure. And even if I think when you start, sometimes people feel that they don't belong or they can't offer anything, and just the power of osmosis doesn't.
You can grow into it.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So don't start having that self-talk like that. You'll grow into it. Okay. Yeah. I mean, I've certainly felt, in fact, that's the way you should feel. Look if you walk into a room and you're the highest earning person in the room, you're not really, yeah. You got to be in a room with people that are above you so you can move up.
Yep. Totally. Sorry about that. All right, Jason, where can people find you and your company?
JasonHartman.com is my real estate company. My podcasting and media company is HartmanMedia.com. And, I welcome any of your listeners' questions. And I'll send over that inflation-induced debt destruction spreadsheet. It's, there's a lot of numbers on it, so I'm sure it's something you really need to see visually. And,
that's brilliant.
And you'll like it, okay? So,
I wish I could pick your brain for another 4 hours. Yeah. So, thank you so much for being on here. And for everyone else, definitely reach out to Jason. Thanks.
All right. Likewise. Keep up the good work and happy investing to you and your listeners.
Thanks, brother. Have a great one.
Did you run through doors till you hit the floor? Did you read my eyes and my aching thoughts? Did you walk through walls till you had to grow? Oh my God, your smile and my soundless calls.
you.